Baldur's Gate 3 is releasing for PlayStation 5 tomorrow, but reviewers actually got their hands on that game a little bit earlier, and it looks like this game's performance on PlayStation 5 is not really that great. So let's look into this. But before we look into it, let's check iniba.com. They offer games for Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo and PC, and as always they've got a ton of different games on sale, like these back to gaming kind of sale. You can actually check that out, or Starfield. So let's start with Starfield. We can actually grab like Steam key for like $60, so why don't we do that? Yeah, let's actually pre-order. Oh yeah, because the game is still not out officially, so let's add it to the cart. And back to gaming sale, we can actually check something here. Well, how about Doom? It's a great game. If you haven't played that yet, add it to your cart too, or then you can continue shopping, or you can actually go to your cart and now proceed to checkout. And all you have to do now is just select a payment of your choice, and that's it, you're done. So guys, iniba.com, they always have a ton of different cool games, and I'm sure you will find something great there. Link is in the description of this video below. Okay, so let's talk about Baldur's Gate 3. So this game released for PC in earlier August, and it actually got a very good reviews. It's actually one of the better scored games. I think it's sitting at like 90 something on Metacritic, which is actually very high. 96 or 95, something like that. Anyway, so looks like Baldur's Gate 3 is great. If you like that type of games, it's a RPG, like pretty much hardcore RPG. And obviously it got a lot of success on PC. A lot of people bought it, and now the game is coming to PlayStation 5 literally tomorrow. Reviews actually are out. Obviously reviews are actually very positive because the game is good, but it looks like there might be a little bit of a problem with performance on PlayStation 5, at least right now. So I'm not sure if there's going to be a day one patch, but I don't think that's going to change much, because the performance issues we are going to be talking here when it comes to PlayStation 5 versions are quite severe. And by the way, just so you know, and before I get any comments like, what do you think it's going to look like and run like on Xbox? You know what, like if it's actually running like that on PlayStation 5, I'm sure it's going to have similar issues on Xbox, to be honest with you, right? But for now, we've got only PlayStation 5 version to talk about, so it is what it is. First off, before I talk about PlayStation 5 version of that game, quick note on Xbox release. So obviously there was a lot of drama surrounding this game's Xbox port. And I mean, we know now that the game is coming out this year. Larian Studios initially said that the game will be out by the end of this year. And I think yesterday or 2 days ago, they also added that they are aiming to release this game between September and November of this year, right? So they, that's still like 3 months, right? So, if I were to bet, it's probably going to be like October, late October, or November, which makes sense really, because like, why would you want to rush it when Starfield is out, and a lot of RPG fans are actually busy playing Starfield? And if they release this game like late October or November, then a lot of people will be done with Starfield, or will want to move on, at least for a while. So yeah, it's going to be a good change, if you know what I mean, right? So that's that. So what about PlayStation 5's performance in this game? Okay, so that game offers two modes, quality mode and performance mode. Quality mode offers 1440p 30 frames per second, right? And the game looks very good. Apparently it's pretty much locked 30 frames per second. There's some frame drops here and there, especially in co-op mode, Especially apparently one big city like, game may drop down to like 22 or 23 frames per second, but that's like one location and one place in that location. So I wouldn't really worry much about that. It's probably going to be patched anyway. But the issue is with performance mode, because performance mode is a bit of a mess in a sense that it targets 60 frames per second at very similar resolution, meaning that it's still 14p apparently. It may be dynamic, but unfortunately, it doesn't really deliver 60 frames per second much, right? So that's the problem, because for the most part, game runs at anything between 40 to 45 frames per second, sometimes going down to like 33. So as you can see, it has nothing to do with performance mode really. So I don't know what's there. I mean, it's kind of weird that they are still aiming for 1440p. But at the same time, we don't really know what's the bottleneck is, right? It may be CPU. So if that's a CPU bottleneck, obviously dropping resolution to 1080p would not actually help much, right? So maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's the CPU. I mean, at the end of the day, this is actually still a big game. Looks great and everything. And I don't know, especially in dense areas like cities and stuff. So, in cities, you tend to have more NPCs and objects, so more draw calls needs to be made and whatever, right? Shadows, that's CPU intensive too. So, if obviously this is just a guess right now, but it just, I guess, makes sense considering that they didn't really drop the resolution, because I bet that the issue here is CPU performance. So the CPU is probably a bottleneck, but like I said, I'm just guessing, and let's face it, on PC that game is pretty heavy too, and and it's just kind of shame that we're actually getting more and more of these 30 frames per second games. Same with Starfield, and it's locked 30 frames per second on consoles, and it's pretty much locked 30 frames per second experience with Baldur's Gate 3 on PlayStation 5. But I mean, I realized a couple of months ago that if anyone really is for 60 frames per second gaming, you just have to go with PC, right? And I'm not saying that you have to move completely to PC, but there's going to be more and more games that will offer 30 frames per second or some sort of performance modes like that. And Final Fantasy 16 is another example where you've got nice visuals, locked 30 frames per second. And performance mode is all over the place, right? So, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they shouldn't offer these modes, because if you think about like PlayStation 5 Pro, that's probably coming in the future. I mean, these modes will be very useful for PlayStation 5 Pro users, right? So they will have much better experience, right? Because they will offer, better memory bandwidth, probably faster CPUs, more powerful GPUs. So, I'm sure that the, PlayStation 5 will have no problem hitting 60 frames per second most of the time. I mean, I'm talking about PlayStation 5 Pro as if it existed, right? But I mean, looks like it does exist. It's just, it hasn't really released yet. It hasn't been even officially confirmed. But like I said, these titles that do offer the unlocked frame rate, like even in the past, when more powerful console comes out, then they are able to take advantage of these games take advantage of more power. And even if you think about next generation, for example, I mean, this is a type of game or like classic game that will probably be played for decades. So it makes sense, like even without extra patching, any extra work from developers in the future, that game will be 1440p 60 frames per second on PlayStation 6, right? I mean, it will, if it will be that on PlayStation 5 Pro. And I mean, I can only assume that PlayStation 5 will be backwards compatible, right? I mean, it kind of makes sense. I guess it's kind of a standard now. So kudos for Microsoft to actually delivering that and kind of forcing Sony's hand in that aspect too. So guys, listen, so that's the video. I hope they will still patch it, and even on PC, Baldur's Gate 3 is a fantastic game apparently. But it's also buggy even on PC, and they just keep adding new patches and stuff and patching bugs. So I don't know, who knows, maybe they will introduce some day one patch and maybe patch it later, so maybe it will be closer to 60 in that performance mode in the future, who knows. So guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.